Fidget. How could I know we're going to run slap bang into an iceberg? It didn't say get off before the iceberg on the ticket.
Woohoo! Energy efficient light bulbs on a dimmer switch. It's like a strobe. Like if you turn it down a bit.
Oh, that's the party night.
That authentic sort of acid house podcasting feeling. Hot Wampa episode. This is 32.
32, yeah.
Yeah, is that XXIIIIXX?
Yeah, XXII.
Oh, that's one or the other.
Aye, Captain.
Yeah. Not too much in this episode. I think it's just the usual, really, isn't it? Star Wars showcase, cycle news. Some good stories we've got here. I don't know, really anything. We've got some new followers, haven't we, coming up lately? Some rather exotic and interesting names coming up
from Japan and South America. So
yeah. We know they're from far afield. If I can't pronounce them.
Yeah. So I mean, hopefully they're people that we've met at the various sort of conferences and venues that we've attended this summer.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, there's another one coming up in Peterborough soon, isn't there? Field of Force.
That's right, Field of Force Day. Yeah,
up to October. I mean, that's relatively cheap and easy to get to. I don't know if you want to go and have a look at that.
I probably will venture up there, get the old train up to Peterborough. Because was it like £3 each or something?
It's not much to get in, is it?
No,
it's pretty good value.
They do have a number of special guests, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of cosplayers about. So
yeah, we have a good rapport with them. I think it's called Field of Force because it's done in mind with visually impaired and hard of hearing people, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
It's a sort of conference aimed at sort of accommodating them a little bit more than the mainstream does, which I think is a great idea.
Yeah.
I mean, fandom doesn't stop at any sort of restrictions or anything, really, does it?
That's right, yeah.
And it's not strictly a Star Wars conference, is it?
No, it's quite general. Looking at the pictures from various other functions they've done. Lots of Doctor Who, different sort of other sci-fi. It'd be interesting if we'll find a hard of hearing scout trooper section, because seeing you tap one on the shoulder at the old Star Wars celebration, maybe they'll be in attendance too.
Yeah, I'll see if I can score a hat-trick at offending scout troopers. Should we go to it then? I know the tickets are going quick.
Yeah, I'm up for it, yeah. So I'll get a couple of tickets tonight if you want.
Yeah, do that by all means when you get home. And
okay, and we'll give them a shout out today, and I'll get in contact with them and let them know that we're going to come down and have a look.
Okay, well, I shall stick their URLs in the metadata for the podcast then.
Okay.
So any listeners that are hearing us talking about it can, check them out for themselves and see what they think.
Yeah.
Okay, let's not muck about in housekeeping then if we haven't got too much to talk about and get straight into Star Wars. Okay, I think the main thing we need to acknowledge this week, as recent events in Star Wars, is the sad passing of Kenny Baker.
That's right, yeah.
It depends on what media source you go to. Some people say he was 81, some people say he was 83, 82, nearly 83. I'm just going really with what I've pulled offline about him recently. So if we have a look perhaps at Kenny Baker and his life, and go from there, we give that our thoughts. Kenneth George Kenny Baker, 24th of August 1934 to the 13th of August 2016, was an English actor and musician. He was best known for portraying the character R2-D2 in the highly successful Star Wars science fiction movie franchise. Baker, who stood 3 foot 8 inches or 112 centimetres tall, was born and educated in Birmingham, Warwickshire, and at Borden School in Kent. He was the son of Ethel, a pianist and dressmaker, and Harold Baker, an artist, musician and draftsman. His parents were of average height. He went to live with his father, stepmother and half-sister in Hastings, Sussex, and in 1951 was approached on the street by a woman who invited him to join a theatrical troupe of dwarfs and midgets. This was his first taste of show business. Later he joined a circus for a brief time, learned to ice skate and appeared in many ice shows. He had formed a successful comedy act called the Minitones with entertainer Jack Purvis. when George Lucas hired him to be the man inside R2-D2 in Star Wars in 1976. So Kenny, I mean, obviously he's more famously known for portraying R2-D2 through 6 films.
Yeah.
But obviously those show business roots go deeper than that, you know.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting what you were just saying about Jack Purvis, because he's Wally in Time Bandits, which is our showcase today.
Yes.
And Jack Purvis was in A New Hope as the Chief Jawa.
Okay.
So, you know, perhaps Kenny, I'd like to think, got him a small role in that, you know, as because they had formed a comedy double act together. So, you know, and a lot of sort of people affected by dwarfism do end up going into like the circus, especially in the United States. And they're there for the pratfalls, the slapstick, that kind of thing, you know, and that seems to be, if they're going into entertainment, they seem to fall into those fields.
Yeah, I think perhaps that's the thing of its time. I mean, he was approached by this woman in 1951 to join this theatrical troupe of, as this says, dwarfs and midgets. I mean, this isn't my words, I'm only reading what I've pulled off the internet, which is dangerous. But I don't know whether that would be an acceptable form of entertainment today, would it, to derive amusement from that status? The fact that they're different in being shorter like that?
I mean, to a certain extent, I mean, you can look at amputees who have recently been used in films, and there are agencies out there for people who've had amputations who are, you know, used in certain respects in different film. And I guess it's something to be celebrated that, you know, you can find a role, you can find a career in the entertainment industry, you know, various sizes, various heights, you know, and I think that's one of the best thing about, you know, being an actor in this, you know, this kind of industry. Especially look at the Star Wars universe. I mean, the size and shapes of different characters, you know.
Oh, that's the extremes though, isn't it?
Yeah.
You go from someone like Kenny Baker all the way up to Peter Mayhew.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of average people are somewhere between the two, though. I mean, I don't mean sort of the practical application of having a shorter person, obviously, to play a role like R2-D2 or like you've just said for Jack Purvis or Jawa. It's obviously that's very useful, and if they've got some sort of theatrical training, all the better. I meant the sort of amusement of them just for their status, you know, basically laughing at them instead of using them practically for that, which is obviously respecting their skills. Well, I don't know, it's different times now, I guess. Anyway, Baker appears as R2-D2 in 6 of the episodic theatrical Star Wars films and played an additional role in 1983's Return of the Jedi as Paplu. I had the action figure of Paplu.
Yeah, I did too.
The Ewok who steals an Imperial speeder bike. He was originally going to play Wicket, but he fell ill and that role was handed over to Warwick Davis. Baker is featured on Justin Lee Collins' Bring Back Star Wars. He revealed a feud between him and his co-star Anthony Daniels. He claimed Daniels had been rude to him on numerous occasions and states that Daniels is rude to everyone, including fans. Baker continued his association with the character of R2-D2 in Star Wars The Force Awakens, which was released on 18th December 2015 in North America. He was going to be a member of the cast, but he served as consultant for R2 instead. In November 2015, it was confirmed that Jimmy V was cast as R2-D2 in Star Wars Episode 8, replacing Baker.
Yeah, I mean, Force Awakens, R2-D2 didn't really have a key role. Probably for one of the, you know, the first time he hasn't had a key role.
Well, he's dormant till right up the end,
yeah,
wasn't he? Yeah, I mean, I don't know quite how his health was doing by the stage. I mean, you've seen him recently.
Yeah, I saw him at a London Film and Comic Con, and I think I said to you, Dave, a couple of days later, you know, I felt bad for him because why was he there? And, you know, obviously his family have said since that he loved going to these things and meeting the fans, and, you know, I saw him signing stuff, and I just, you know, if he was happy and he was doing it, you know, then that was the reason he was there. So.
Always, whenever you see him in interviews and stuff, and then, like you said, the way he is with fans and the way people talk about him, he comes across as very amenable. Quite why he had this feud with Anthony Daniels. I mean, I was watching the Justin Lee Collins interview the other night on YouTube. I mean, Justin Lee Collins himself was falling out of favour.
Yeah, he's certainly fallen from grace.
We're not going to talk about that, but you know, it does seem very strange because, like I said, we were at Star Wars Celebration Europe in 2007, and Anthony Daniels came across there as quite fine and charming. You know, he thanked Paul for jogging his memory when he couldn't remember the name of the set he was on, and came across as quite a decent bloke. So it does seem a bit of a strange that the pair of them didn't get on quite so well.
Well, I think we got a different type of actor, whereas I think Anthony Daniels comes across more of a thespian, who takes it quite seriously. I think Kenny Baker probably appreciates the times he's had, and he appreciated the fans that he'd met, and I think he was there along for the ride more than anything.
I think Kenny Baker was quite a physical actor.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't have a lot of lines of dialogue in Time Bandits, but
No.
he is basically almost in every shot, whether it's running about or lifting something or putting expressions on his face, but he doesn't say a lot. So maybe a role, something like R2-D2 or Paploo, that sort of role was perfect for him, which is basically, it was a physical role. It was animating, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So perhaps that was more his forte. In his other work, Baker's other films included The Elephant Man, Time Bandits, as we've said, also with Jack Purvis, Willow, also with Purvis and Warwick Davis, Flash Gordon, Amadeus and Jim Henson's Labyrinth. On television he appeared in the British medical drama Casualty. He also had a part in the BBC production of The Chronicles of Narnia. In the late 1990s, Baker launched a brief stand-up comedy career. He played Casanova in the 1993 movie UFO. In November 2009, his biography, titled From Tiny Acorns, The Kenny Baker Story, was made available through his website and at conventions and book signings. It was written with Ken Mills. So he's got this other sort of catalogued work. I mean, obviously we all think of R2-D2. It's the most prominent role for Kenny Baker. Well, I was looking on online on various social media forums and stuff the other night, and it's surprising the number of younger Star Wars fans that didn't realise R2-D2 had a bloke inside.
Yeah.
And that shocked me. I mean, you've got to think the first one was made in the 70s. We didn't have the CGI or the servos and remote control models and stuff that we've got today. And, guys did do this sort of work, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, the radio-controlled units you see today are just far superior to anything, we had 35 years ago.
That's what made a lot of these movies so groundbreaking and so good. It was because a lot of it was breaking new technology and stuff. I mean, you've got to remember that Kenny Baker, I mean, obviously he was a much younger man there, late 30s, early 40s, whatever it was basically strapped inside a metal dustbin in the heat of the Tunisian desert, retaking scenes and shuffling about and stuff. So, the guy had to be relatively durable in that environment.
Well, it's interesting what you say about his age, because people with this affliction do tend to die younger, and he had an incredible life, really, for the age that he lived to. I mean, Jack Purvis died in 1997. Tiny Ross, who played Vermin in Time Bandits, died in 1994. And even David Rappaport, who played Randall in Time Bandits, died aged 38 in 1990. So he had a good innings for a small chap.
Baker resided in Preston, Lancashire. He was married to actress Eileen Baker, who co-starred with him in the 1977 film Wimblington. So a good year for him, 1977.
Yeah,
he met his missus and became R2-D2. From 1970 until she died in 1993. Although Eileen also had dwarfism, this was not inherited by their two children. Baker had been invited to attend the premiere of Star Wars The Force Awakens in Los Angeles in December 2015, but was too ill to travel to the US. Instead, Baker attended the film's premiere in London. He later met up with George Lucas in Manchester. Baker died on the 13th of August 2016, just 11 days before his 82nd birthday, following an extended illness. Like I said, there's various reports about his age.
Yeah,
so
I had to check 2 or 3 times. Yeah.
That could well be inaccurate. So if I'm wrong, my apologies. I'm just going on the information that I've got available so that we can at least talk about Kenny to a degree.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, he's rejoined the Force. Well, he's become one with the Force now, I guess.
Well, some great sort of artwork that we've seen across social media dedicated to him. There was you shared one from Scott Wright, didn't you, on the page?
Yeah.
Or he's shared it on our page. And with R2-D2 up in the cloud with other members of the Star Wars team, sort of looking up at him. And some great words from people like Terry Gilliam, who I think we shared that on our social media about how he thought that Kenny Baker was always fun, always joking around, and always making people laugh on the set. And he was an entertainer. So
yeah,
Peter Mayhew came in a bit later, didn't he? And he had some wonderful words as well. So they're also on our Facebook and Twitter feeds. So.
People can see that, yeah. Like I said, Scott Wright sent us that picture. It's a lovely little poignant picture, isn't it? I don't know if that's Scott's work or something he's come across himself. I honestly don't know, but thank you for sending that our way, Scott. Also shared the Tom Kane one as well, I believe, which is R2 with his dome off and the rose in the ground.
That's
I think
right,
that's quite a lovely picture. I had thought about contacting Tom Kane because I know he's the actual artist that did that picture and asking if we could use that as album art, but it's basically time's run out, so I couldn't really do it, so I've knocked up something myself. But yeah, I mean, there's some lovely sort of little tributes out there on the internet. Like I said, it's just surprised me how much people didn't realise that R2-D2 was an actual guy, that, you know, thought he was a remote control model or operated by wires, or quite what they thought of him. I mean, obviously in the prequel era there was more of R2 came out of a Pentium, shall we say.
Yeah.
Like these scenes of R2 flying through the air with his rockets and all the rest of it. But no, I mean, Kenny Baker was apparently, even in the prequels, was still a very prominent part of R2-D2. So
yeah,
I mean, I've seen shots from the Phantom Menace when he was back in the desert again with the dome over him and all the rest of it.
Yeah, and you know, a long time after the original.
So these things go around in circles. Like I said, we don't want to mention the Justin Lee Collins program too much, but I know there was a bit in the interview there when they mentioned the fact that the inside of R2's dome was coated with page 3 girls whilst he was inside that, just to keep him entertained and what have you. So I thought it would have been hot enough in there already without sweating over.
Well, yeah, that's true. Did he have a light in there, do you think, or because it must have? I guess they had a water system, and
that'd be a bit of a downer, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Well, I'm going to get in the dome here with, I don't know, Josephine 24 from Sheffield, and then it just all goes black inside. You can't see a damn thing.
Maria Whittaker.
Nah, it'd be before her time.
Yeah,
she was classy though. Yeah. So yeah, sadly, you know, Kenny Baker no longer with us. May he rest in peace. Although we will be coming back to Kenny Baker in a little while.
Yeah, I mean, our showcase
Time
is
Bandits.
it's sort of he features prominently. One of the famous favourite members of the cast as well. So. Looking forward to talking about that.
Yeah, 2016's been a pretty bad year, really, isn't it? For
definitely. I mean, every other week we seem to be losing like a childhood favourite, or you know, someone that we really enjoyed watching down the years. So you know, let's hope put a stop to it. And you know, 2016, we've lost enough greats.
So yeah, I mean, rest in peace, Kenny, and what a great legacy he's left us. Great record on film he's got there.
Yeah.
Okay. Other Star Wars news. The Rogue One International trailer. This came out not long after the second official trailer, didn't it?
That's right.
Now, my interpretation of it's a very basic reworking of that second official trailer. It came out a bit like the international trailer did for The Force Awakens with the Oriental language. I mean, you're going to have to forgive me because I don't recognise any of the symbols. In sort of subtitles on the bottom of the screen. So it's very much that sort of vibe, and it's a revised version of the second official Rogue One trailer. It was released on the 15th of August 2016. I believe you got it up onto our social media by the 16th,
yeah.
So we were pretty quick on it. There are a few differences between the two trailers. One of the most notable is in the dialogue of Mon Mothma and the Rebel General in briefing Jyn Erso. That dialogue goes, "We have intercepted a coded Imperial transmission. It indicates that a major weapons test is imminent. The message was sent by your father."
Yeah.
I think that's the contentious line.
It is, because Mads Mikkelsen, you know, has given away enough to, you know, we know that it's Jyn Erso's father. We know that he was responsible for designing, you know, large parts of the Death Star. And I don't believe we really needed to hear that.
No, I mean... It does give us a lot we can draw out of. I mean, it shows why the rebels would have leverage over somebody who perhaps lives their life as a bit more of a free spirit and has no allegiance or no onus to anybody, that they can use that lever of her father. And it also kind of suggests that Mads' character is something more of a good guy, that he knows this is wrong and he's trying to get this communication out.
Yeah.
You know, he's like the he's sort of Schindler to the Empire. You know, he's forced to work in that environment, but he will do whatever he can to quietly help the opposition under the table.
As long as they give him a nod to get out in time, I guess.
Yeah, which kind of sets him up basically as the good guy under duress, doesn't it?
Yeah.
By conscience. Yeah, I agree. I think we kind of speculated that could be a possibility before this international trailer had said that, but I think it makes that speculation much more likely, and I agree that I don't think we need it. It's starting to get into territory now where they're starting to fill in too much of the plot, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does seem like that, and I've seen films recently where, I've been disappointed about how much of the plot I've already seen in a trailer, and the best moments, like for example Suicide Squad, were in the trailer. So, I mean, in some ways you want to sort of look away when you see a new trailer these days, because, I think the first trailer's okay, it sets it up well. The second trailer was fine, didn't show us too much, but the international trailer, as I said to Dave, the other week, it seemed a bit dumbed down, trying to, pretty much fill in the gaps which Star Wars fans like to speculate over themselves.
Have you seen the picture from Star Wars itself that I've posted up on our Facebook today?
No, I haven't checked today.
It's got a picture of Diego Luna character sat on the beach with a group of rebel soldiers around him, and there's if you look in the corners, bottom corners, left hand, right of the frame, you can see dead stormtroopers on the sand of the beach.
Okay.
And you've got the rebel troopers all standing around him, sort of shouldering the rifle sort of thing and what have you. It's not an action pose, it looks like a pose taken just after the action sort of thing, when they're relaxing or taking stock. And if you look at the rebel soldiers in that photograph, some of them look very much like the Endor troopers from Return of the Jedi, that sort of design of helmet and sort of a camouflage smock and all the rest of it. Some of them look very much sort of US Marines, kind of Vietnam era in the way they're dressed. There's a right sort of diversity across the uniforms.
Which I
commented that the image itself does give it a bit of a Saving Private Ryan stroke the Pacific type vibe if you look at it.
And as we were saying about the forming of the Rebel Alliance, I guess they were from different sort of groups, sort of put together, weren't they?
They wouldn't necessarily have a standardised uniform. They'd all be wearing what was practical to them, whether it be the uniform of a local militia or that he had served in, or whatever they've gotten hold of on the black market, that kind of look to them. That's
right. I mean, the desert island world has been named as Scarif. Scarif, yeah. So, that certainly looks like...
It's not Jeddah, which is almost too much of a nod in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
I think this is... Saying as calling the place Jeddah is on the same lines as... What's the proper name for Smurfs 3D? Avatar.
Yeah.
When they're looking for a material that's rare to find, and it's called unobtainium.
Yeah.
It's that level of intelligence.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, are there any other sort of notes of contention that you think kind of dumb this trailer down, or perhaps give us a little bit too much information?
I mean, that was the main one.
It is the main one. It jumps straight out, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, the trailer was designed, the international trailer, because The Force Awakens didn't do so well in China, and and they reckon that most people aren't versed in Star Wars, and so they, with Rogue One, they cast several Asian cast members, and they were hoping that it would sort of kickstart Star Wars sort of interest in China in particular. So it'd be interesting to see if that works in their favour, or it could backfire. I mean, that was a problem I think with Finn in the Force Awakens poster. He wasn't a popular character in China, but in Europe he's been the hero that we wanted. I think he's a bit of a rogue and came across really well.
Well, he's one of my favourite characters because you see him from the moment he makes his decision, and you follow him through, and you see him develop.
Yeah,
and you realise a bit like Geonoso's father, that perhaps he's a good guy, but he's under duress, under the wrong side, and you see him sort of make his decision. He decides he's going to bolt, and he defects, and you see that transition from someone who's basically on the run for himself to somebody who's trying to fight for and be part of the good guys and back the good guys. So I think in a way Finn's journey through the film is one of the better parts of the film. And
we had never seen that side of it before, have we?
No.
The stormtrooper who takes his helmet off and decides, no, I'm not going to do this.
Well, I guess, it's not touched on that much, but I guess the rebel ranks would have been filled by a lot of Imperials that have said, you know what, enough's enough, this is wrong and I'm going.
Yeah.
Obviously these guys are trained, they've got equipment that has to come from some background, and they've just decided to switch sides to the side they see as morally right, perhaps.
Yeah.
But But yeah, I mean, that's that really. I don't know if we've got anything else on Star Wars at the moment, really.
I've got director Orson Krennic, Ben Mendelsohn's character. He's one of the characters featuring on the latest Empire magazine. Mm-hmm. So the marketing is stepping up.
Is that the photograph with the different troopers behind him in like an arrow formation? Okay, I've seen the picture. Yeah,
and the other one is Felicity Jones with her crew behind her. So we've got 2 covers coming up this month for the new Empire magazine. Confirmation that Han Solo will not feature in Rogue One. There's like a sort of internet speculation going on about that, whether he would turn up or not. But we have been told that Lando Calrissian could turn up in the Han Solo standalone movie.
I thought that was confirmed.
Yeah, it's still not confirmed. It's still, it is a maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, and obviously it hasn't been finished yet, so we'll see. But it'd be interesting to see if they can decide who won the Millennium Falcon and how fairly that game was, stuff like that. That'd be interesting.
There's got to be some foul play involved. I couldn't imagine Han's character playing it straight. Could you? And if he could have a dishonest advantage, he would play it.
Yeah.
But what I want to know is who they're going to find a young guy who's that smooth to play the young Lando Calrissian.
With a decent
Billy D. Williams, you just knew it once the cameras were off. There was a flock of bevy of beauties that probably went to him. You know what I mean?
I remember he turned up in Modern Family, and he was just still such a cool guy.
Yeah.
Really.
A real smooth sort of character. So I don't know if they can get someone who's that charming and that smooth to play a younger version, perhaps. I don't know.
I don't know anyone at the moment. I'll have to look through my casting logs to see who I would put in there. But, you need a good moustache.
Yeah, there's got to be. But someone can carry that good moustache. I think that perhaps basically should just get Billy D out and do a bit of digital work on him. Yeah. He probably would. Something I haven't got much more on Star Wars.
Well, also about the Peter Cushing character.
Oh, isn't he coming back as a completely digital render?
Yeah, Grand Moff Tarkin, right?
Okay.
They're bringing him back, but
William Tarkin.
Yeah, we found his first name, didn't we? Actually, the other day. But they're going to they're having problems with the lower body apparently.
Right.
Upper and the face is not too much of a problem today with CG.
Okay.
But getting size right with his legs is proving to be a problem.
Are they really trying to be that spot on with it?
Yeah.
That precise.
Yeah.
You know what? If they got his legs like a centimetre too long, I don't think anyone would notice.
No, and even if you've done an upper body shot, maybe you don't really need to see his legs.
I think so long as it's not ridiculously disproportionate, people aren't necessarily going to pick up on it.
No.
Yeah, it's been so long since Peter Cushing passed away. I shouldn't think anyone can actually remember how tall he was.
No, only Hammer House aficionados are probably remember Peter Cushing.
Perhaps he got a waxwork made of himself at Madame Tussauds at some stage or something like that. I don't know.
That was a great film, actually, Waxwork. So who was in that? That was Vincent Price, wasn't it?
I'm
not sure if Peter Cushing's in that one, but that was a Hammer House film.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? One other thing. Forrest Whitaker's Saw Gerrera, the character. He's had a hair transplant, hasn't he?
I have no idea.
Yeah, in an earlier trailer or earlier, he was born.
Oh, he looks different. In one, he looks more grizzled and hairy, and the other one, he looks, like you say, shorter and sharper in his barnet.
Yeah, but I think the character was quite popular in Rebels. Is that right? The cartoon.
I haven't. I mean, I've only seen like the first half of season 1 of Rebels, so I wouldn't know past that stage at the moment. I'm trying to find out where I can get the rest of it from.
But they weren't sure he was going to play that character specifically. But as the film evolved, he was sort of, you are that guy. So I guess they had to modify him to look like the character that we're seeing in that. So
looking at everything we just talked about in front of me and thinking whilst we're talking, I've come up with a new possibility for the TIE Fighter. Yeah? That's her old man.
What, in the TIE Fighter?
Jyn Erso's, yeah.
That'd be a great
twist.
I'm pretty sure it's an escape ploy, But we'll have to wait until December 16th.
Yeah. The people that be listeners, no, it's not, Dad. Probably right. I don't know, it's just another theory I'll throw into there.
Well, why not, Dave? You're entitled to them.
You go to rescue someone and they end up rescuing you, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Sean Connery and Harrison Ford in Last Crusade.
Yeah, Sean Connery coming back again in a moment. Time Bandits. I think we might as well get on with that.
Yeah, it's time for that.
Time for Time Bandits.
If we're going to be damned, let's be damned for what we really are. You're listening to Hot Wampa.
Time Bandits is a 1981 British fantasy film, co-written, produced and directed by Terry Gilliam, and starring Sean Connery, John Cleese, Shelley Duvall, Ralph Richardson, David Rappaport, Catherine Helmond, Ian Holm, Michael Palin, David Warner and Craig Warnock. Gilliam has referred to Time Bandits as the first in his trilogy of imagination, followed by Brazil, which was made in 1985, and ending with The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, which was made in 1988. All are about the craziness of our awkwardly ordered society and the desire to escape it through whatever means possible. All three films focus on these struggles and attempt to escape them through imagination. Time Bandits, through the eyes of a child. Brazil, through the eyes of a man in his 30s. And Munchausen, through the eyes of an elderly man. Plot of Time Bandits. 11-year-old Kevin has a vivid imagination and is fascinated by history, particularly ancient Greece. His parents ignore his activities, having become more obsessed with buying the latest household gadgets to keep up with their neighbours. One night, as Kevin is sleeping, an armoured knight on a horse bursts out of his wardrobe. Kevin is scared and hides as the knight rides off into a forest setting where once his bedroom wall was. When Kevin looks back out, the room is back to normal, and he finds one of his photos on the wall similar to the forest he saw. The next night he prepares a satchel with supplies and a Polaroid camera, but is surprised when 6 dwarfs spill out of the wardrobe. Kevin quickly learns that the group has stolen a large worn map and are looking for an exit from Kevin's room before they are discovered. They find that Kevin's bedroom wall can be pushed, revealing a long hallway. Kevin is hesitant to join until the visage of a menacing head, the Supreme Being, appears behind them. Demanding the return of the map, Kevin and the dwarfs fall into an empty void at the end of the hallway. They land in Italy during the Napoleonic Wars. As they recover, Kevin learns that Randall is the lead dwarf of the group composed of Fidget, Strutter, Og, Wally and Vermin. They were once employed by the Supreme Being to repair holes in the space-time fabric, but instead realised the potential to use the map to steal riches. With the map and Kevin's help, they visit several locations in space-time and meet figures such as Napoleon Bonaparte and Robin Hood. Kevin uses his camera to document their visits. They are unaware, however, that their activities are being monitored by Evil, a malevolent being who is able to manipulate reality and is attempting to acquire the map himself so that he can remake the universe in his design. Through Evil's actions, Kevin becomes separated from the group and ends up in Mycenaean Greece, meeting King Agamemnon. After Kevin inadvertently helps Agamemnon kill a Minotaur, the king adopts him as his own son, something that Kevin is content with. Randall and the others soon locate Kevin and abduct him, much to his resentment, and escape through another hole, arriving on the ill-fated RMS Titanic. After it sinks, they are forced to tread water while they argue among each other. Evil manipulates the group and transports them to his realm, the Time of Legends. After surviving encounters with ogres and a great big giant, Kevin and the dwarfs locate the Fortress of Ultimate Darkness and are led to believe that the most fabulous object in the world awaits them, luring them into Evil's trap. Evil takes the map and locks the group into a cage over an apparent bottomless pit. While looking through the Polaroids he took, Kevin finds one that includes the map and the group realises there is a hole in the fortress near them. They escape from the cage, steal the map again and split. Kevin must distract their pursuers while the others will go through the hole. Evil confronts Kevin and takes the map back from him. The dwarfs return with various warriors and fighting machines taken from across time, but Evil has no trouble overpowering them all. As Kevin and the dwarfs cower, Evil prepares to unleash his ultimate power. Suddenly he is turned into stone and explodes. From the smoke, a besuited middle-aged man emerges, revealed as the Supreme Being. He reveals that he allowed the dwarfs to borrow his map and the whole adventure had been a test of his creation. He orders the dwarfs to collect all the pieces of concentrated evil, warning that they can be deadly if not contained. Recovers the map and allows the dwarfs to rejoin him in his creation duties. The Supreme Being disappears with the dwarfs, leaving Kevin stranded behind as a missed piece of concentrated evil begins to smoulder. Kevin passes out and awakes in his bedroom to find it filled with smoke. Firefighters break down the door and rescue him as they put out a fire in his house. One of the firemen finds that his parents' new toaster oven caused the fire. As Kevin recovers, he finds one of the firemen resembles Agamemnon and discovers that he still has the photos from his adventure. Kevin's parents discover a smouldering rock in the toaster oven. Recognising it as a piece of evil, Kevin warns them not to touch it. Ignoring him, they touch it, then explode, leaving 2 piles of ash. Kevin tentatively approaches the smoking ash and is seen from above. As his figure grows smaller, the camera pulling back to reveal the planet, and then outer space, before being rolled up in the map by the Supreme Being. Okay, so there's my pre-recorded plot synopsis, all 6 minutes of it. Like Terry Gilliam's directorial and written efforts themselves, it's just rather long and convoluted and colourful. What do you think was your first exposure and experience to Time Bandits?
This is a film I probably saw on VHS.
Okay.
You know, and I don't know, 8 or 9, probably 8 years old, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And similar like we were recently talking about 12 Monkeys, it was a film that made me feel uneasy, uncomfortable, and a bit scared to look at my wardrobe at night.
Okay. It has got that kind of Narnia feeling to it, isn't it? Somewhere in your bedroom there's a porthole to somewhere that's magical but not necessarily safe.
Yeah.
My first exposure to it wasn't VHS or anything like that. It was at school. I mean, obviously I'm from Ely, so I went to St Mary's, and every now and then, end of term, instead of taking games in or what have you, they'd take you into a classroom, they'd black off all the windows, curtains down so the light didn't get in there, they'd set the video up and they'd put a film on for all the kids to watch, and that was the first time I saw Time Bandits. It was, oh God, 83, 84, something like that. St Mary's Junior School, watched it in there. I thought it was a great film for kids like that. It does have them darker, sort of more twisted type of moments in it. I made some notes on that myself yesterday watching it. Visually, I quite like the sets.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously things like a child's bedroom and a forest for the Robin Hood scenes, those sorts of areas, they're pretty easy. The desert area for ancient Greece, obviously you just got to find the right place and you can film that. But things like on the ship, the ogre ship, the sort of, the rigging and the wooden timbers and the decking and all the rest of it, I thought that was a great set.
Oh, I mean, definitely,
that had to be practically produced at the time. This is 1980, 1981, this is pre-CGI, and I thought that, the way it was shot and the ship pitching and the waves and the rain coming over the side, and the same when it's on the giant's head and they show you the sort of rocking and everything of it and the mast swinging from side to side. I thought visually it was very well done. Yeah, and
something totally different at that time. It goes back to like Jason and the Argonauts or something like that. It's sort of a throwback to that kind of fantasy and mythology. Something I don't think in 1981 anyone else would have shot that kind of film.
Well, apparently it was made for quite a low budget. Have you got those financial stats?
Yeah, it's $5 million, which was put up mostly by George Harrison. Because the studio were reluctant to sort of pay that much money for it. And the gross at the end in US dollars is $42,365,600. So it certainly made its money back.
Yeah, early 80s, that's not a bad return for quite a limited film, really, and quite a cheaply made film. I think production-wise, it looks okay. I don't think that it doesn't look like it had the cheap budget. I think they achieved that.
Once again, I think some of the things that would have not put me off, but disappointed me at the time, looking for American blockbusters, Spielberg-esque, sort of those kind of budgets and locations. I guess seeing Kevin's street and realising how close it was to home
Yeah.
For an English audience, you think, well, it looks kind of, you know.
The same at the end when you see the fire appliances
Yeah.
and stuff, and it was 1980, 1981's suburban Britain anyway.
Yeah.
It was a vision that you and me would have been very familiar with, perhaps not so much to an international audience, but to us that palette would be very familiar.
And kind of repeated again in the Harry Potter films, like Privet Drive. I mean, they're very much just your average
They're more kind of
suburban-
stereotype though, aren't they?
Yeah, but based on this kind of thing, it's just your average suburb, you know, somewhere in Hertfordshire, Bedfordshire, you know, somewhere like that. So
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, this is... Monty Python is stamped all over this. You can tell that this came out of the craniums of Gilliam and Palin, because, and also obviously acting in the film. You've got John Cleese in there as well. Michael Palin plays a couple of roles, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
You know, this is very much sort of Monty Python satire. Kevin's parents, I mean, they're not too concerned about anything other than having the latest gadget to keep up with the neighbours, so to speak, you know, keeping up with the Joneses, whatever you want to call it. I mean, there's people that are like that these days, aren't there? People have the brand new iPhone the day it's released and all the rest of it. And there's something to be said for that. I mean, you know, sort of consumerism pushed to its worst. But I think that there is a degree of a bit of a satirical take on this. I think Terry Gilliam, the only non-British member of Monty Python, isn't he? He's an American. Had the guts to have a go at it.
And I think he's something that, as an American living in Britain, I think he still lives in Britain.
I believe so, yeah.
Similar to Bill Bryson, the writer. I think they've got many sort of observations about life in Britain and things that they love, the quaint elements, the eccentric elements, but they sort of embrace it. And when you've got someone like Terry Gilliam, who's a great visionary, who can put that onto film, and, you know, it's really his interpretation of everyday life in Britain, I guess.
Well, maybe he's got that fresher perspective, because like we mentioned about the suburban scenes, to us that seemed so pedestrian and normal. It didn't really stand out to us. I mean, obviously to an international audience, or to someone who, like Terry Gilliam, who didn't grow up in that sort of typical environment, that would look completely different. Perhaps there was a novelty in that he saw.
Yeah.
I mean, it is... I do find it a bit hectic and a bit all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, we've got the dwarfs work for the being, what as they call it, the Almighty or something like that.
The Supreme Being.
The Supreme Being, yeah, it's God. It is the Almighty, isn't it, basically? Or whatever version of it you want to be. And obviously we've got his malevolent opponent as such, who's called simply Evil.
Yeah.
And there's this sort of plot twist. I mean, the dwarfs work for the Supreme Being, don't they? Helped him to build a universe. Basically, they're his employees, and they get bored of that, and then they decide to go on some sort of quantum robbing spree, don't they?
Yeah, and through time and also mythology, it's like a nice mixture, isn't it? Sort of different stages. I like the way that Terry Gilliam opens the film with a map and ends it with a map. You know?
Well, I think it again goes back to Monty Python, very much that kind of university background that writing team had to it. And I mean, they loved going back to history. I mean, of the Holy Grail, Life of Brian, and so on. So many examples, even in the sketches in the show, when they would go back and they were the first sort of satire or slapstick that would go back and have a crack at classical history, weren't they? Because they were well versed in that. They'd been through an education system that had taught them about ancient Rome and ancient Greece, ancient Christianity, you know, all these things from the old world. And this is another example of a film that's not prepared, well, not scared to have a pop at that in a way, to make a joke from that, you know.
And I think it was a large gap between Terry Gilliam's last Python film and Time Bandits, probably like 6 or 7 years. And, you know, even Sean Connery, I think the first scene he filmed was in Morocco, and it was 130 degrees with Sean Connery.
That's ancient Greece.
Yeah, that's right. And Sean Connery was quite kind and sort of gave him a bit of leverage and said, look, you know, take your time, get back into it, kind of thing. You know, in a baking heat. So
well, yeah, it must be, because he's got that great big. He was fighting on that Minotaur, although the Minotaur probably had worse of the time of it.
Yeah, probably did.
With a big old bull's head on him and all the rest of him. But yeah, I do find it a bit all over the place. So we will admit that. It sort of goes like Robin Hood time, ancient Greece, all the rest of it. I don't feel like I get to know that environment enough, you know. And then it's on to the Titanic, and then it's on to the World of Legends, or whatever it is, Evil's domain is called. I find it moves very quickly. The only bit you really focus on, I think, is the first bit when it goes back to Napoleonic Italy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I think basically Ian Holm, our old mate Ash from Alien.
Yeah.
He's playing Napoleon, isn't he? He's got a height complex. He's like 5'1" or something, isn't he?
He is. I think in reality he's 5'6", Ian Holm, and apparently Napoleon was around 5'6" himself. So he wasn't such a tiny man. I mean,
well, that's not short really for those eras.
Not for those times. Yeah.
Average male probably grew to around that height at that time.
Well, I'm 5'6", Dave, and I consider myself just below average height. So.
I think it's 5'10" or something.
Probably
the average
is.
male today.
Probably is.
But yeah, I mean that's a play on that, which he enjoys himself. Like Kenneth Baker's slapstick skills when the dwarfs get up on stage, don't they?
Oh,
that's part of their.
Me and My Shadow,
Me and My Shadow, that kind of crossover. I like that. There's a lot of Python humour. Like the guy who's basically he's entertaining Napoleon, isn't he? And he's worn out and he doesn't see he can do anything more for him. He's about to blow his own brains out, and then the Time Bandits turn up.
Yeah, so saves the day.
It's like his respite.
Well, this is our second Napoleon, I guess, in Hot Wampa after
Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bill and Ted is our second Gilliam after 12 Monkeys.
Definitely, yeah. We got a few. Let's just have a quick look at the cast. John Cleese. I mean, Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Obviously, he'd been in. I'm trying to find as many.
Yeah, but John Cleese is one of these guys. It doesn't matter who he plays. He's John Cleese.
He's always the same.
Basil Fawlty was John Cleese. His alter Q ego, if you will, in the later Brosnan Bond films was John Cleese. Fish Called Wanda, he's John Cleese. It doesn't. Is he in a Fish Called Wanda?
He is. Yeah. The main barrister.
And what's the one where he's the headmaster?
Clockwise.
That's it,
yeah.
John Cleese. It doesn't matter what role he plays, he's John Cleese. So you're going to get what you pay for with him.
Got top billing in this though. I've got the cast here as they in their credit order. So above Sean Connery, which is quite an accolade, I guess.
Yeah.
John Cleese. I'm trying to find some other sci-fi. Doctor Who. He's been in that, and Third Rock from the Sun. He was in that. So. Sean Connery is King Agamemnon. It's not easy to say. Agamemnon.
I know. I took several attempts, and my plot synopsis earlier. Yeah.
He also played the fireman at the end.
That's right.
Outland. Have you seen that? That's a sort of sci-fi film with Sean Connery in a posing pouch.
I thought that was it Zardos or something. I'm getting confused here. Okay, no, we'll go with Outland. I mean, you might be right. I'm not an expert there, so.
Highlander, which we're still debating whether it's sci-fi or not, aren't we? Is it fantasy?
You could debate that the same about this.
That's right, yeah. Meteor, which is another disaster movie.
And it was a disaster of a movie to watch as well.
Shelley Duvall, who I never, even younger, looking at her, I never found her that attractive. I don't know. But she obviously did something right in Hollywood because she got some good roles. She was Dame Pansy in this. She appeared in The Twilight Zone and Ray Bradbury Theatre and a few other sci-fi things. Obviously, I think that the Shining is what I remember her from.
Okay.
As Wendy, so she was quite good in that. Catherine Hellman is Mrs. Ogre. And that was quite a funny scene, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah. Do you think that the makeup and prosthetics and that you look on her husband and the teeth and everything, he obviously does look like an ogre, and she just looks like a normal person.
That was the funny part, as far as Terry Gilliam found. Catherine Hellman was the one who suggested that. How about he just goes home and it's just a normal woman who's sitting at home waiting for him?
Just the missus.
Yeah, just the missus.
Yeah.
She was in Brazil, as a lot of this cast were. True Blood, which was a series about vampires recently on television, and The Bionic Woman. Ian Holm, Napoleon, obviously Alien. Existenz, which was a passable David Cronenberg.
He was in that awful Loch Ness movie thing with Ted Danson, wasn't he?
I didn't see that.
Don't watch it.
No,
it's not a shining point in Ian Holm's film career, which is otherwise is probably quite good. Also, Roland Emmerich, I think he's in The Day After Tomorrow.
He is, and
doesn't he play a meteorological scientist or something?
That's right, and he says that The Day After Tomorrow in this.
That's right,
which is a coincidence. Brazil and
Jabberwocky,
and the Frankenstein with Kenneth Branagh. He was in Robert De Niro. He was in that. Michael Palin, Vincent, Brazil, Jabberwocky. You name it. He's been in it with Terry Gilliam, hasn't he? Michael Palin. I like that Michael Palin. Sort of a easygoing, everyman.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I think he was one of the youngest Pythons, wasn't he?
Yeah.
At the time, so I never really watched or got a lot of the Monty Python brand of humour. To me, it wasn't. I mean, I got things like Fawlty Towers and that quite well, but the Python thing, I never really got it that well. I think of Michael Palin as more of a travel presenter and writer.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Around the World in 80 Days, Pole to Pole, Full Circle, Hemingway's Adventure, Himalaya. I mean, the list goes on.
He's been fortunate that he's had like several careers in a way, hasn't he?
Yeah.
As a writer, as a presenter, you know, comedian, you know, first, you know, so he's done pretty well. Ralph Richardson, the Supreme Being, Rollerball, he was in that.
Okay.
The original Tales from the Crypt, he was the Crypt Master in the original Tales from the Crypt. I think the one that was filmed in the 80s, 90s, there was like an animatronic Crypt Keeper. I don't remember them. But yeah, so he was the original guy. And he was in a film called Things to Come, which was made in 1936, which was like a science fiction film looking at a dystopic future after a Second World War.
There's a shape of things to come. It's just the one where aerial bombing and air power becomes prominent, and there's sort of groups that different settlements that rise up.
That's right,
basically, in the aftermath of war, and then it goes on to a brighter future where there's a modern city-state and an attempt at a moonshot. Yeah, if you ever get a chance, read the book. It's a very good book. Yeah,
is it H.G. Wells?
I believe it is.
Yeah.
There's also a black and white monochrome film of it. I think I saw it on Movie Drone, I don't know, 1980, 1990 something. Not so good. It gives you an image to the book, but if you get a chance, I would recommend reading the book. It's a very good book.
Yeah. And you know, I've got like a compendium of his stories. And the Time Machine, you know, things like that. Yeah, just the War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds.
The Invisible Man.
Yeah.
You know, just some brilliant stories. Who else have we got? We've got Peter Vaughan, who was the Winston the Ogre. Winston is his name. I don't know. Did we get that name in the film?
I don't know.
I don't remember. But he was in Brazil, another one. The Born Identity, which is the television programme with, is it Richard Chamberlain, who played Dr. Kildare?
Dr. Kildare.
Yeah, he was the original Jason Bourne.
Shogun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this guy, Peter Vaughan, is probably famous for Game of Thrones these days. He plays Maester Aemon.
I've not watched it, because everyone else watches it, and I refuse to watch everybody else's Game of Thrones until they watch my reimagined Ronald D. Moore Battlestar Galactica.
Fair enough, Dave.
Matter of principle, sorry.
Yeah. I'm the same with Breaking Bad. I've never seen that. Everyone tells me it's brilliant, but you know, I've sort of
there's way too much decent television and stuff slips under the radar people don't see because they'll be off put by a title or something, or have a preconception instead of giving it a chance. So I mean, I'm not going to follow the lemons off the cliff and watch Game of Thrones. Sorry, that's the way I feel. I know that's going to offend a lot of our genre of listeners. That's the way I feel about it. You watch 4 seasons of Battlestar Galactica and I'll watch an episode of Game of Thrones. That's my deal with you.
That's not a big compromise. Did you say 4 seasons?
Yeah, they've got to watch all 4 seasons.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
But they'll be enlightened by the end of it. They'll be like thanking me. I'll be like a messiah to them.
I have to
back
say,
to Monty Python again.
Battlestar Galactica is superb. And I mean, I watched probably most of it in Poland, and a lot of the episodes I watched back to back. You know, someone gave me them. But maybe, I don't know, Dave, maybe you watched it and you had to wait for week to week for episodes.
I watched it because Sky co-funded it, so they got the obviously exclusive showing rights in the UK. And the first season we got before the US, and it took off very strongly in the US, not so strongly in the UK. And the second season, the US got it before we got it, so we had quite a big gap between seasons, whereas the US obviously had quite a shortened gap. And that was around the time the internet spoilers and forums were getting bad. I mean, that was kind of a culture that was then coming in. And all I can remember was like the whole second season being completely spoiled by the fact that America had it a couple of months before us. And the fact that we hadn't done that with season 1.
British integrity.
Yeah, and it's intact because we did the same with The Force Awakens on the whole, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd recommend Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
I mean, it was one of those...
Don't think about wobbly people in robot suits and Daggets and all this rubbish. Think about it as more of a gritty drama, and I think you'll be on a more comfortable footing with where it goes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And, you know, like I was saying, watching episode after episode, it is like a book, like a page-turner. You just want to get to the next stage and see what happens, you know, and... I really appreciate that, and Dave's right with his recommendation. I fully endorse that.
Yeah. Anyway, back to Time Bandits.
Time Bandits. David Warner, wasn't he in Battlestar Galactica? Maybe in the earlier series.
Possibly.
Yeah, I think he might have been. Anyway, as Evil, he was in Planet of the Apes, the 2001 movie, which I haven't seen.
Thankfully, Marky Mark one.
Yeah, the Tim Burton one.
Yeah, no, rubbish.
And also in The Mouth of Madness, did you see that? With Sam Neill. I remember that. It was a H.P. Lovecraft book, I believe.
No.
But, a bit disturbing. I remember that. Many other things. David Warner, if you go on any British TV series, go back in time, have a look, and basically he cameoed in one episode.
Mm-hmm.
You were sort of talking about Kenny Baker in Casualty, was it? Yeah. I mean, a lot of these actors have appeared in British sort of TV.
TV, yeah.
Juliet Bravo, Coronation Street, Minder, you name it, Boone, Lovejoy, a lot of these actors have appeared. Kenny Baker, I've got a few other credits here, as Fidget in the film. 24-Hour Party People, which is a film I haven't seen, but I believe it was a Steve Coogan sort of production.
Right.
About the Manchester music scene, like in the 80s.
Okay.
I haven't seen
the Hacienda sort of Stone Roses New Order type.
That's it.
Yeah.
UFO you mentioned, but there's a film, I only took the title, so I don't know what it's about, but it's called Boobs in the Wood, which, it sounds like some kind of...
dogging thing.
Yeah, some sort of pantomime or something like that. So
okay.
I'll have to look into that a bit more later.
Yeah, we have to keep me abreast of what you come across.
I will, yeah.
Yeah.
Malcolm
I'm sure we get a few points out of that. Oh. Milk that one for what it's worth. Sorry, carry on.
No, it's okay. Malcolm Dixon, Strutter, one of the other team of Time Bandits, he was in Labyrinth. A lot of these were in Labyrinth as well. Labyrinth, The Dark Crystal, the George Lucas sort of... Jim Henson film, wasn't it? Which was a bit disturbing for me. It wasn't exactly a decent Muppet film.
No.
It was, as the title may suggest, a bit dark.
Yeah, it was. Fair enough, yeah.
And he was in Flash Gordon, as a lot of these guys were too. Mike Edmonds is Og. He was in Legend, the Tom Cruise film. Legend. The Dark Crystal again. And in Return of the Jedi, he played Logray. So that's quite a big role. I remember having the action figure of Logray.
Was he the medicine man or something like that? No.
Yeah. That's like Logray was like the humbug one, wasn't he? He was the
I can't remember.
He was like the light and beige colour.
Yeah.
I think so. And then you had Chief Chirper, didn't you? But
yeah.
Chief
I never had all the Ewoks. I used to nick my sister's Care Bears as substitute ones, which wasn't quite the same, but it was satisfying pretending your Stormtrooper action figure had gunned them down.
Blasting them with the stuffing coming out. Bless them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who else we got?
Jack Purvis, Wally, we talked about. He died in 1997. He was in Willow, Labyrinth, and in episode 4 he was the Chief Jawa, as we said. Tiny Ross was Vermin, which is one of my favourite Time Bandits. He died in 1994. Only 3 credits to his name, and would you believe it, 2 of them are Time Bandits and Flash Gordon.
Again.
And the third one is a film called Black Jack. Couple more credits. Craig Warnock is Kevin. He only done one other motion picture called To the Lighthouse, so he didn't really do a lot. It's funny because in casting he attended with his brother, who was sort of put forward for it.
Okay.
And Terry Gilliam saw him and said he looked a bit more quiet, intelligent, and unassuming. Mm-hmm. So he got the movie. So you imagine that feud has gone on for a few years. I remember that time you nicked that credit in that film. Yeah. David Dacker is Kevin's father. I put name a British TV show he was in it, from Doctor Who and Moonfleet.
He seems very familiar from stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sheila Fern, Kevin's mother, exactly the same. Jim Broadbent is in this as the compere on the game show.
Yeah, that's right.
I've got down Cloud.
Is it Your Money or Your Life or something like that?
Yeah, that's right. Which is a very Monty Python-esque sort of game show, isn't it?
Yeah.
Similar to Blackmail. I remember that one with Michael Palin as the compere. Cloud Atlas, Robots, Brazil. You could probably name 6 or 7 Jim Broadbent films that you'd seen him in. I think he's good. Famous recently for Harry Potter, things like that. He's one of those great British character actors. I think he's done the rounds, certainly.
I think I've seen him in episodes of things like Midsummer Murders and Pie in the Sky and things like
Only
that.
Fools and Horses.
Only Fools and Horses.
Yeah, he was Slater.
Alfie's Own Pet. I think he was in a couple of those.
Yeah.
Now you're saying, I think he did play a role in Grange Hill. I think he was a run of the mill actor for a long time, wasn't he? Yeah, and I'm familiar with what you're talking about.
And some of these guys just seem to step up to film,
I found it darkly satisfying when his mother and father got blown up by that piece of pure evil in the oven.
As did many children in test audiences.
Really?
Because the studio said, look, this is
well
too dark.
received.
Yeah, and it was well received by children, So Terry Gilliam, dark as he is in his humour, he said, look, we're keeping this in, and they did. And kids loved it,
Yeah. Whatever happened to Kevin though at the end there? You don't know. He pans out, that comes out the street, the planet, space, folded up into the map by the Supreme Being, the Almighty there. What happened to that character?
I guess he
grew up an orphan.
Yeah, he grew up an orphan, went to a foster home, spent the rest of his days looking at a wardrobe, hoping it would open again, probably. So it's a bit,
He's got to be disturbed the rest of his life like that, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I imagine a late teens, early 20s, going off the rails, bit of a wild child.
Definitely.
Alcoholic and gambler by the time he's 40.
Setting microwaves on fire. Something like that.
Yeah.
You can just imagine it. No, listen, I saw a horse come out of my cupboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, alright, Kevin.
Received one of the world's first ASBOs, perhaps.
You probably did, yeah.
Probably pioneered a lot of things in his life.
I've got some script notes. What was it? What Terry Gilliam wrote with Michael Palin. The warrior took off his helmet, revealing someone that looks exactly like Sean Connery, or an actor of equal but cheaper stature. Now Sean Connery, as luck would have it, got hold of this script and was cast as that character. It's just amazing. Sometimes you get what you wish for.
Yeah, I think, put it out there. Like you said, he got wind of it and, I'll do it kind of thing. Yeah. Perhaps he was clear at the time and, why not? I mean, that's great.
David Rappaport believed he was given the part based on his acting ability alone, without size being a contributing factor, and as a result would not socialise with his co-stars. So do you remember that scene when they're pushing the wall back and they're all fighting and bickering? Apparently the other guys were actually giving him a good shoe-in because they were upset with the way he treated them.
Do you think Kenny Baker is the shortest of the Time Bandits?
I don't know.
When you look at them and they're entertaining Napoleon, they're actually lined up on the stage. It looks like a scene from Ain't Half Hot Mum, but with dwarfs or something. Boys to entertain you type vibe. And he's in that lineup, obviously, so you can compare heights. And he looks quite a bit shorter than the other Time Bandits, I think. Yeah, I don't know if it's him or Tiny Ross, who's Vermin, but you're probably right. Vermin's the one that eats the rat in the cabbage. He's the one that'll eat anything, isn't he? Yeah, I mean, also, is that a colander on his head? Yeah, it's a colander. Is that a stainless steel metal colander? Yeah. I mean, they've got an eclectic collection of dress from sort of American Civil War caps, haven't they? A flying helmet, and I guess it's all the places they've been throughout history, isn't it? They've kind of picked up souvenirs and took them with them. Well, I certainly thought the Vermin looked a little drained, so... A 1996 script for Time Bandits 2 was completed by Terry Gilliam and Charles McKeown. So that's not... Well, it is quite a long 20 years ago, and nothing ever came of it. And obviously a lot of the cast are now sort of passed on. So yeah, like you said, dwarfism does tend to affect people's life expectancy. Yeah. And with Kenny Baker, I mean, we're not 100% sure how old he was. What we are 100% sure of is that it was in his early 80s. Yeah. And, for a lot of people, that kind of is where they go. Of people of a normal physical, outlook on life tend to end up that way, don't they? So, yeah, I mean, that's one of them things. I guess you could get Warwick Davis in there. Warwick Davis, yeah. We could use him. When you listen to the voices of all the dwarf characters, especially Kenny Baker's mate is a Jack Purvis, does it sound to you like in post-production they've added some sort of audio filter to the voice to make it sound more dwarfish? I'm not sure, but I know that they were going for a lot of the speaking roles. It was inaudible, and that was intentional. That it was like there was always something going on in the background that you couldn't really understand what they were saying. But yeah, it does sound like it's been mixed up slightly, doesn't it? I listened to a few scenes last night on the computer, and I was like going back and listening to it again just to see if I could pick out. But a lot of it does feel like there's very much like on the dialogue from any of the dwarf characters. Obviously, Jack Purvis is the most prominent, because he speaks the most, and it sounds like it's been put through some sort of speed filter or a pitch filter or something to make them sound slightly more, dare I say it, dwarfish, which is kind of stereotyping the way someone like that should sound. Yeah. But it's kind of exaggerating it, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't know if that was necessarily needed, personally. Some of the sound... Maybe I'm looking at it from a modern sensibility. Yeah, perhaps, but... At the time, I wouldn't have thought anything of it. There are some lines where with even Kevin's mouth doesn't move, but the line's said. Yeah. So they have sort of messed around with quite a bit of it, but I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. I'll have to go into it again in more detail just to have a look. Evil's headgear. Yeah. Did you notice anything about it that looked familiar? It always reminds me of Venger from Dungeons and Dragons. What, a one horn? Yeah. Yeah, I saw because I think the first time you see Evil in this, because he kind of looks into his, I don't know what you call it, mythical pot of water in front of him, and that's his window on what's happening.
Like a Vicks vapor bath.
Yeah, yes, that's his Mystic Meg crystal ball, and he's got his two, however many his sidekicks hanging around him. When he's looking in there, I think the first time you actually see him in the film, it's kind of shot from behind and slightly above his head. So you're looking kind of down on the back of his headgear. And to me, it looks like a mashup between a face hugger and the sort of typical look what we'd see years later of the Borg. It looks like there's like a serrated pipe coming out the back of that headdress, running down his back, which looks a bit sort of Borg armour.
And they did say that H.R.
Or the 80s
Geiger,
Wizard of Oz, the guys on roller skates.
Yeah.
Kind of that kind of look.
the Wheelers.
The Wheelers, thank you very much.
H.R. Geiger was credited as an influence behind that costume.
And if you look on the top, it does look very much like a face hugger, sort of knuckled ribs sort of look on the top of the cap there, which is an interesting design, I thought, to that character.
And it just shows you,
the gear
like,
he's wearing.
a couple of years after Alien's release, it was still, like, you know, in everyone's mind, you know, probably. So, it's probably a good shout there, Dave.
The wardrobe, I think, is a bit eclectic, but very good. I think it's in the same... With the sets, it works, it's functional.
How old is Ian Holm?
Oh, I have absolutely no idea.
Because he was 49 in this film, playing a 26-year-old Napoleon.
He's 49 in this. This was, what, 81?
Yeah.
What was Alien, 79?
Yeah.
So he'd have been 47 in Alien.
Yeah.
I don't know, he must be getting on, I guess.
37 years later, something like that. So, yeah, so...
Yeah,
He's
must
in
be in his
his
late
80s.
70s.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't be bothered to do the maths at the minute.
Well, someone else can, hopefully.
Yeah.
According to the novelisation, Kevin's surname is Lotterby, and he is 11 in the film.
Okay.
This was the 10th most popular film in 1991 at the box office. 10th?
1991?
Yeah, 1981.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm a time bandit here. John Cleese completed filming in just 2 days, but I mean, he's only on screen for like 3.5 minutes or so, isn't he? It was Sean Connery's suggestion that he would appear at the end as a firefighter.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Palin wanted a Robin Hood role for himself, but John Cleese wanted to play him, so I guess John Cleese, being the tallest member of Python, got his way.
Yeah, he's more authoritative than Palin anyway, though, isn't he? In the way he addresses people. Yeah, I like John Cleese, but like I said, in anything I see him in, he's John Cleese.
Yeah.
He's just one of them actors, you know what I mean? If you had him playing James Bond would be John Cleese.
Yeah.
It'd be Basil Fawlty, he'd be interchangeable, it'd be the same guy.
What did you think of, talking of James Bond, what did you think of him as Q? Again, John Cleese? Or...
Well, that was sort of in the last couple of Pierce Brosnan ones, he kind of Q's assistant. I don't know, really. An old-fashioned Q, perhaps not where we are today with Q. I mean, today Q's more of an IT guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Back then he was more of a gadget man. You know, how we can get a machine gun into your car, how can we get a bomb into your watch, that kind of guy, wasn't he? Whereas today, he's more of a sort of, well, he's sort of, you know, Mark Zuckerberg crossed with a hacker, isn't he, kind of guy.
That's right.
John Cleese would fine as an old Q, not as a new one.
No. What else? The suit worn by Ralph Richardson was his own. So he probably just turned up on set, fully ready, in his own gear. Most of the cast were Monty Python fans who wanted to work with Terry Gilliam, which I guess makes it quite easy. Although George Harrison had a bit of dispute about the song appearing at the end of the film, which he wrote, uncredited, I believe. And he said that Terry Gilliam was as awkward to work with as John Lennon, which Terry Gilliam wore as a badge of honour. He was overwhelmed by that.
Yeah.
Terry Gilliam first met Shelley Duvall through Eric Idle. I guess, you know, it's good when you've got friends in different places. To play Robin Hood, John Cleese had to shave off his beard.
Yeah.
And that's about all the facts I've got.
I've also got about the set for Evil's Fortress of Darkness, I think looks very good.
Yep.
When they approach it and the camera's sort of from a low perspective but climbing up the sort of, it's like a cliff face, sort of very dark gothic look from the outside, isn't it? And it pans the whole way up and you can see sort of the arches and the towers and the windows and the gates and this all the sort of detail that's in that. I think looks very good. I also think it looks very good on the interior. I think on the interior during the fighting at the end, the special effects are not so good. Them guys that are chasing them when they split up and all the rest of it.
You're right. I think sometimes it looks like a studio set, and other times it looks pretty breathtaking.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, you've got the two cages suspended over nothing. That does as much as it needs to. That's the way it is in the script. There's another scene in it where evil is central to the room, and he's got the Time Bandits out in front of him. And if you look at the way the room is set up around him, and the shapes in that in the room was like triangles and squares and stuff along like a curved wall. Then there's other architecture on the other side of the room, and it looks very much like one of them mind screw type pictures, like you see the sort of street art when you look down. It's like 3D.
Yeah.
It's very boggling to the eye when you look at it, and I think that's sort of a visual type of art that we're used to seeing today one way or another, but for that time it's quite staggering to try and get your head around it. I forget what the timestamp is on the film when that scene's on, but and that's one thing that's stuck in my mind looking at it this morning. It looks like a sort of surreal painting or something. The actual set does. It's a bit bizarre. I mean, I guess that's Gilliam.
That is Gilliam, and I mean that's why I still find these films kind of a bit disturbing, a bit unnerving in a way. And as a kid,
it's like he's deliberately put something in there that you can't quite compute or comprehend, isn't it?
Yeah.
It kind of tricks the way you're thinking about it, or confuses the way you think about it.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, the animation he's used in it, you know, as he was great at Monty Python, like the Supreme Being's head coming, you know, things like that, you know. It was more, I guess, more frightening. You know, and as the Supreme Being, whatever you determine he is, you would have thought it would be an understanding, kind gentleman, not necessarily some large head chasing you through different dimensions.
Well, he is very much towards the end, doesn't he?
Yeah,
he gives the dwarfs the job back in that, and whatever, he cleans up evil's mess kind of thing. Yeah. Overall, I think it's okay. I think it was designed to be a film for family viewing. I don't know that it's strictly a film aimed at children, but certainly one that children could watch as a family film. What do you think in that regard?
I
think the satire and a lot of the more disturbing things in it are too quick for children to comprehend anyway.
It does zap about a bit, and maybe that's what, you know, children's sort of period of interest maybe drops. So he changes it so often that you're always somewhere different, somewhere new. It reminds me of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang in a way, where I feel a bit uncomfortable and uneasy, like with the child catcher and things like that. You know, it reminds me as a kid, as I said, with the wardrobe and
the modern Pied Piper, isn't it?
Yeah, and there are moments that like that, which he's obviously taken elements of different stories and, you know, just concocted his own fantasy. So yeah, I mean, I would give it 7 out of 10. I think, yeah, you know, and I will probably have to go and watch it a couple of times again after talking about it.
Yeah. As a child, when I first saw it back in St Mary's Junior School, 5 out of 10. It was watchable, but to me it was no more watchable than a Lassie film or, you know, High Noon or something. That's about how much it held my interest. As an adult, probably with a better appreciation of the other elements that are in the film, I would probably come in around the same, around 7 out of 10, I think, for me, personally.
At the time, I mean, you were talking about school films. I remember Labyrinth and The Never-Ending Story were two films that were always getting put on at school.
Never-Ending Story, they still keep playing the song on Radio 2 today.
Was it Lamal?
Oh, I can't remember now.
Yeah, I mean, Never-Ending Story was pretty poor, but Labyrinth does stand up. And I think Time Bandits does stand up as well.
Yeah, I think visually it's fine. Like I said, it's a bit chaotic. There's some scenes that are hard to interpret, but I think it hasn't aged too badly, to be honest with you. Like I said, there's a few things in there I pick out, like the audio filters on the dwarfs' voices to try and make them sound more dwarfish. I don't think it's necessary, and personally I'd listen to that and there's something to me that I feel uncomfortable about. I think just let them use their voices, it doesn't matter. I think some things like that, it hasn't aged very well, but I think visually, when you look at the film, it's aged fine.
Yeah,
I don't think it's too bad at all.
I think, like we've spoken before about time travel films, the thing is with them, it's difficult to age them because they were set in different times. You know, that's the way they should be seen. So
yeah, I mean, as long as that authentic portrayal of those times is relatively authentic, you'll buy it, I guess. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I don't know that we've got much more on Time Bandits. No,
I think that's it. I'd recommend. I mean, you saw it recently on YouTube, didn't you?
Yeah.
So it's out there. So
yeah, you can watch it as a freebie.
Yeah.
If you want to.
Have a quick look and, you know, just, as I said, check your wardrobe before you go to bed at night because it is a one that'll get you thinking.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, then shall we do the other stuff we need to do?
Let's do this.
local news. Quick one before we venture into our main local news story.
Right.
This one is taken from the Cairns Times newspaper. It's dated the 11th of August 2016. It's via their correspondent Seb Pearce. I think he's been their correspondent on several things we've covered before. 2 teenagers and a man were forced to apologise to a farmer after they were caught digging up and stealing potatoes at a farm in Wimblington. Officers tracked down 2 17-year-olds and an 18-year-old after being called to the farm in Eastwood End at around 7 p.m. on August the 10th. I guess 18-year-olds your age of adult responsibility. A yellow bag containing a large quantity of potatoes was found alongside the car that was spotted at the scene, and the men were taken back to the farm to apologise, both verbally and in writing as part of a community resolution.
Brilliant.
Spud scrumping.
Yeah.
That sounds like a Chumbawamba song or something, doesn't it?
I get knocked down. Yeah, I don't know. Did they...
Potato wrangling, potato rustling.
Yeah, rustlers. They're on the crisps now. I don't know. Potato. I mean, Wimblington is quite rural out there, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And I think you could probably get away with scrumping for spuds, but I wouldn't recommend it. But it's probably a good chance.
There's an album title as well, isn't it? Scrumping for Spuds.
Is the name of my next biography. But I don't know. It takes me back to a time when we first moved down 10 Mile Bank, and
Alright, is this a confessional story?
well, I'm actually dropping my mum in it.
Oh dear, okay.
So we moved down to 10 Mile Bank, and out the back garden, we didn't have a hedge or a fence around the garden. It was just back straight onto the fields.
Mm-hmm.
And my mum saw a lovely sort of blossoming turnip. That was sort of...
I think I might have heard the turnip tale before.
Yeah.
But carry on.
So dug it up, washed it. Mum cooked it with for Sunday roast, with the Sunday roast, and we tucked in, and it turned out it was bloody sugar beet. And of course, back then, we moved up from Essex, and we didn't have a clue what a sugar beet looked like, so we ended up knocking down on that.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so not the tastiest thing, but potato rustling, I don't know.
Rural crime? I mean, I've done it before. There's that roundabout out near Meeple where tractors and lorries are always shedding loads of spuds, and I've had potatoes and carrots. And I'll admit I've done it. I see it personally as a civic duty that I'm helping to clear the mess up.
Exactly.
I've never felt compelled to go out to some farmer's field and dig up a bag of spuds because we're short at home and I fancy some chips or something.
No.
Potatoes are cheap enough, isn't it, for a bag of spuds?
Yeah, well, I used to do it, but I decided to jack it in.
Oh,
sorry, mate. It was just appealing. I don't know. I wouldn't tell our younger listeners to go out on the fence, stealing spuds.
I don't get. These aren't the coolest, are they? I mean, they're not the smartest because they got caught. They had the wrist slap and had to go back and write an apology letter. You got 2 17-year-olds and an 18-year-olds. Why aren't they stealing car stereos and mobile phones and stuff like that? Why are they out digging up spuds? It's not very rock and roll, is it?
I wondered if one of the 18-year-olds, or the 18-year-old was called Maris Piper.
Well, he's obviously the King Edward or Kingpin of the screen, isn't he?
Yeah.
I wonder what sort of spuds they were. A farm in Wimblington.
This time of year? They wouldn't be new potatoes.
No, they wouldn't be new potatoes, but they'd be main crop, I'd have thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But really, stopping to dig up spuds in your car, I mean, it seems like a venture sort of fraught with risk that's disproportionate to the reward, considering you can go down Tesco's and buy a big old bag of spuds for next to nothing.
Well, Dave, when the chips are down, I guess you have to take that decision.
I guess they'll be doing time. Well, so there's that one, like I said, the spud rustlers of Wimblington. And the next one, can you remember a little while back how when we covered the story of Postman Pat's van getting stolen?
Postman Pat, yeah.
It was a story that we actually had a soundtrack to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this next local news story, we have a soundtrack to this one as well. With a bit of a difference because I've mixed this. Mm-hmm. Frankly, I'm too good for this podcast. Jive Bunny has nothing on me. So for our next local news story, if you'll kindly reach over and hit play on the Hello Kitty official Hot Wampa CD player.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, there you go.
I can hear it moving.
It's whirring to life.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission.
It gets better.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
We come in peace to kill, to kill, to kill. We come in peace to kill, to kill, man.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. I think people can only endure 30 seconds of that.
Classic.
It's worse than that. He's dead, Jim.
I love the Khan. For the rougher Khan. Brilliant.
Okay. Cambridge News posted August the 16th, 2016 by their correspondent Adam Kerr. Star Trek star William Shatner boldly goes into Cambridge on a punt. He's explored the universe on board the Enterprise, but on August the 15th, James T. Kirk, Tiberius Kirk, I believe, isn't it?
Yep, that's right.
Went where no starship captain has gone before by taking to the cam for a punt. Thank God I said that the right way round. Star Trek actor William Shatner was spotted in Cambridge yesterday filming for an American documentary and wasted no time taking to the captain's chair for a tour of the river. The 85-year-old who led the crew of the Enterprise in the iconic 60s TV show and 7 movies was followed along the backs by a TV crew, ahead of a meeting with Cambridge's own Master of the Universe, Professor Stephen Hawking. After mooring at the mill pond, he spoke with Lawrence Austin, owner of Granta Moorings, who told the news he was in awe of the Canadian actor.
In awe? Is that your pun?
No, it's in quotation marks here, so I guess they're noting that. He said he is with a TV production there, filming the trip for a TV show about his visit to Cambridge to meet Stephen Hawking. He is such a nice guy. I sat with him for a while talking about Cambridge and the river. He was very interested and wanted to know if the Granta was Hawkins' local pub. I don't know if Hawkins has a local, does he?
The Granta is down near Darwin College, isn't it?
Okay.
So
that comes to feature here.
It would be a bit further down. I think because Stephen Hawking's residence is at the Gonville Keys.
Okay.
So his local pub would be something like, maybe the Eagle, somewhere like that, you know, or the Baron of Beef, the Mitre, down that way.
You think?
Yeah.
Okay. I grew up with Star Trek, so you're just in awe, again, of someone like that, but he was really down to earth, a really genuine person. I'm only reading as they said it.
What are we going to do? I thought
they're taking our puns away from us.
I know.
No, don't worry, we'll get some out. After navigating along the cam at slightly less than warp speed, Shatner joined his new crew for a pint of Cambridge bitter at the Granta. Today he is due to meet the Cambridge physicist, who is himself a big sci-fi fan. Lawrence said it was all pre-planned. He said it's a lifelong dream of Stephen Hawking to meet Captain Kirk. Stephen Hawking once had a cameo part in Star Trek. I'm guessing that's TNG.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so there is a wonderful connection between them. Tyler Lucas, 19, of Rutherford's punting company, who punted the actor along the cam, said, he told me it was his first time in Cambridge and he was very keen to see if he could see Charles Darwin's house. Physiotherapist Violet Smith, also 19, was standing with friends on a bridge over the cam when she spotted the star alone in his punt. She said, we were enjoying the classic Cambridge pastime of watching the punts go by. And when my friend, I ain't got it wrong yet. And when my friend nudged me and said, look, it's William Shatner. I thought she was joking, but when I looked closer, I saw it was actually him. I felt a bit starstruck, even though I didn't actually get to talk to him. We get quite a few celebrities punting on the river, but you have to be pretty quick to catch them, especially on a warm day when lots of people are out. I'm a big fan of Star Trek, so it was a pretty good spot. While many fans watched as Shatner drifted by, there were others on the river who were oblivious to his visit. Lawrence said, a lot of people saw the cameras, but they didn't realise who it was. You wouldn't really recognise him, but maybe you would if it was in his Star Trek uniform.
Right. I don't know if he'd still get any Star Trek uniform.
I think he had to have a corset and got levered into it before.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of Vaseline and a lot of manpower and labour involved in getting William Shatner into that Star Trek uniform. We got it up on our Facebook. I spotted this one, which was, I'm surprised it wasn't more prominent out there, to be honest with you, but I spotted this one. We got it up on our Facebook on the 17th of August. It was the sort of thing when I looked at it, I thought, and knowing our listeners, that it would attract comments.
Yeah.
And it did. Stephen Waterhouse. I heard he was seen in the Grafton Centre toilets. Apparently he left a captain's log.
Oh, God.
Hot Wampa's own house guitarist, Smiley Jim, just wrote simply, I hope he cling on. So
it doesn't really work, but well done, Jim. I hope he cling on. Yeah.
Yeah, so what do we think? The Bill Shatner himself, punting along the River Cam down the backs. I guess that means the backs of the colleges. I mean, it's not an area I'm that familiar with.
Yeah, no, it's just basically along the river.
Is this the same punting company that you were recently punting down the Cam?
It is actually, and they've been at loggerheads with not loggerheads.
Captain's loggerheads.
Captain's loggerhead. They've been at
Supplemental.
loggerheads with Scudamores, which is the main punt company down the river.
Right.
Whereas Scudamores don't have the right. They have some influence on the local government, local council, the universities, and they sort of oppose any other smaller company starting up their own sort of punting business. So
They want the monopoly.
Yeah. So maybe they got a good deal with Rutherfords. So. But so I'm glad.
Well, nobody's going to mess with your punt if you've got Captain Kirk on command, haven't you?
No, phasers too. You just but I've heard from other people that he weren't too happy about photos being taken of him.
Well, if you're going to be punting down the river in Cambridge, and Sunshine Cambridge is always a busy place, and people are going to see you.
Yeah, but a majority of tourists that go there wouldn't recognise him.
Well, I clocked him in that photograph. I recognised him.
You did, but if you were punting, you would have seen him. But I guarantee a lot of this sort of, I don't know, you get a lot of sort of summer schoolers this time of year who are far too young to recognise him, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, it would take a keen eye to see him. I mean, recently, we had Mark Hamill not too long ago in Cambridge.
Yeah.
We do pretty well, don't we, with sort of people coming to speak, mostly at the Cambridge Union.
Mm-hmm.
And getting along the river.
Well, even round here, I mean, they're starting to call it in online media Elywood now.
Yeah.
I mean, originally we were Silicon Fen, and now apparently we're part of Hollywood. We're Elywood. That's all to do with Assassin's Creed and stuff, as it was getting filmed down the cathedral and all these, this, that, and the other. So yeah, Captain Kirk, Bill Shatner on the cam. I think for a lot of younger listeners, I think when they think of Captain Kirk, they're going to think of old mate Ian Abrams' efforts, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
What's his name?
Chris Pine.
That's it, yeah. In Metro Trek, whatever you want to call it, the modern incarnation of Star Trek. Best William Shatner Trek film, got to be The Wrath of Khan.
I think so. Yeah, I saw it recently. I really enjoyed that one.
Mm-hmm. 85 now. He does a lot of this sort of thing, doesn't he? Hosting democracies. I don't know. He's hosting. Hosting.
Documentaries.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For American TV and audiences, National Geographic and that kind of thing, doesn't he, these days?
He's a keen horse breeder as well. I mean, he's got a lot of other sort of interests that might surprise you. I read a book called Up to Now, which was like a second biography or something like that. But yeah, It's quite an interesting bloke.
Yeah. Well, he was like a Shakespearean actor, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Is that like the stereotype thing now? Whenever someone of the sort of public profile goes to Cambridge, they get on a punt?
I guess it's a good photo opportunity. A pretty area down there, isn't it?
Like it's Venice or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Professor Hawking getting on a punt though. I don't think that would be too easy these days.
I'm sure they could get him on there and put a ramp down or something.
I don't know, but his wheelchair must weigh a lot.
Well, with all that technology on it, it would.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't blame him for having it blinged up. Well, that might be interesting to see that. Professor Stephen Hawkins talking to the Shat.
Yeah.
I never realised that the Shat was Canadian. I always thought he was an American.
Oh yeah, he's Canadian. Yeah, there's a raft of Canadian actors that have done well. Like I guess Jim Carrey, Dan Aykroyd are two that spring to mind.
Yeah. Oh, well, in the original Star Trek, Jimmy Doohan, he was Canadian, wasn't he? He wasn't Scottish and he wasn't American. He was Canadian.
Yeah.
But there is a subtle difference in the accent to an American, but I'd never heard it in William Shatner.
No, he's always done a good job.
Yeah. So there you go. Anything on that?
Not really, Dave. I mean, hopefully I'll go down there this week and have a look, see if I can scout out any more interesting Hollywood talent.
Celebs coming down there.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, I mean, you never know who's going to come past you.
Well, I read earlier this year that Jennifer Lopez was looking to buy a house in Arbury in Cambridge.
That's got to be a wind up.
It must be, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for those that don't know, Arbury in Cambridge used to be a bit of a rough area.
She'd have one of the smallest backsides in that area, wouldn't she?
She would, yeah.
That's got to be it. I can't see that happening somehow. But yeah. So there you go. The great man himself, the Shat, has visited Cambridge.
If you've seen anyone in Ely, Cambridge, around this area, then why not let us know, and we'll try to find out who's got a selfie with the famous, folks that visit our region.
Well, apparently not Shatner, because apparently he wasn't happy with the concept of getting photographed, but I don't know why. But you kind of, I don't know, you're in the firing line when you're out there, I think.
Some people aren't phased.
Oh dear, he was stunned to get that though, wasn't he?
Yeah.
We're short on puns for this really, and I think the actual news report's gone through most of the ones.
He has, and Stephen and James, Jim have managed to get a couple.
They jumped straight in. Yeah, we knew they would. When I saw that in a post, I thought this is the sort of story that'll get a comment or two. But so he joins the illustrious list of celebrities that have visited our region that we've discussed. People like Timmy Mallet and all the rest of it. He's in that prestigious league now, isn't he?
I like the way you start at the top. He's up there with Robert De Niro, Timmy Mallet.
Al Pacino's been here.
Yeah,
when they filmed Revolution.
That's right.
Yeah, my uncle was an extra in that.
Was it Sid Owen? He was in it, wasn't he?
I can't remember.
He played Ricky Butcher in EastEnders, Sid Owen.
Ricky!
He was in it,
yeah. So there you go then. So that's that really. Local news, Hot Wampa episode 32. We're done, dusted.
Done and dusted. Beam us up.
Yeah, until all the frees for the next one, 33. Any ideas on that?
33? No, we're open to suggestions as always.
Yeah, I mean Star Wars will kind of take care of itself in the news, I guess.
Yeah,
Time Bandits, whilst perhaps it's not strictly sci-fi, was an obvious choice.
Mm-hmm.
I think with the passing of Kenny Baker, it gave us a chance to talk about something else he was in and took us away from the R2-D2 role. So I don't know where we'll be for Showcase next. Whilst it's kind of satirical and comedy in its nature, Time Bandits, I don't know, it's light. I think we need something perhaps a bit lighter coming up now.
Yeah.
Something, I don't know, we can talk about that amongst ourselves, I guess.
We'll have a look through the list, but in the meantime, at Hot Wampa on Twitter or hot.wampa@yahoo.co.uk and email us your suggestions, or you can find us on Facebook just as Hot Wampa.
Yeah.
And we're out there and we'll respond. Any good suggestions, you'll get your credits.
Yeah.
Comments, photos, especially I want to see some celebrity punters, that'd be interesting.
Yeah. We've done well today to say all them words without slipping up once.
We have, yeah.
Yeah. That'll be coming up in a fortnight, whatever it is. That's about it, really. Take care, and we'll talk to you again soon.
See you next time.
Should we be a right git, actually, here?
What?
Well, I mean, obviously, I pulled from the internet last night was The Firm and Star Trekking.
Yeah.
From the 80s, which is incredibly tedious.
Yeah.
Should we give it to them now?
Yeah.
Should we give them the whole song?
Yeah, put it on repeat.
Yeah, no. We don't want to fill up the feed space with it. I think they a bit like Arnie and the Terminators. I think they deserve to get this.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. The Firm Star Trekking. Kids, ask your parents, and you'll hate me. Catch you later. Take care.
Bye.
Trekking across the universe.
On the Starship Enterprise under Captain Kirk.
Star trekking across the universe.
Slowly going forward 'cause we can't find rebirth. Lieutenant, report. There's Klingons on the starboard bow, starboard bow, starboard bow. There's Klingons on the starboard bow, Jim.
It's life, Jim, but not as we know it, not as we know it, not as we know it. It's life, Jim, but not as we know it, not as we know it. Captain.
There's Klingons on the starboard bow, starboard bow, starboard bow. There's Klingons on the starboard bow, Jim.
Star trekking across the universe.
On the Starship Enterprise under Captain Kirk.
Star trekking across the universe.
Slowly going forward, still can't find rebirth. Medical update. Dr. McCoy.
It's worse than that. He's dead, Jim. Dead, Jim. Dead, Jim. It's worse than that. He's dead, Jim. Dead, Jim. Dead.
It's life, Jim, but not as we know it, not as we know it, not as we know it. It's life, Jim, but not as we know it, not as we know it. Captain.
There's Klingons on the starboard bow, starboard bow, starboard bow. There's Klingons on the starboard bow, Jim. Starship Captain James T.
Oh,
We come in peace, shoot to kill, shoot to kill, shoot to kill. We come in peace, shoot to kill, man.
It's worse than that, he's dead, Jim. Dead, Jim. Dead, Jim. It's worse than that, he's dead, Jim. Dead, Jim. Dead.
Well, it's life, Jim, but not as we know it, not as we know it, not as we know it. It's life, Jim, but not as we know it, not as we know it, Captain.
There's Klingons on the starboard bow, starboard bow, starboard bow. There's Klingons on the starboard bow. Scrape them off, Jim.
Star trekking across the universe.
On the Starship Enterprise under Captain Kirk.
Star trekking across the universe.
Slowly going forward and things are getting worse.
It's just that.
You cannot change the laws of physics. Laws of physics. Laws of physics. You cannot change the laws of physics. Laws of physics, Jim.
Oh, we come in peace, shoot to kill, shoot to kill, shoot to kill. We come in peace, shoot to kill. Scotty, beam me up.
It's worse than that, he's dead, Jim. Dead, Jim. Dead, Jim. It's worse than that, he's dead, Jim. Dead, Jim. Dead.
Well, it's life, Jim, but not as we know it, not as we know it, not as we know it. It's life, Jim, but not as we know it, not as we know it, Captain.
There's Klingons on the starboard bow, starboard bow, starboard bow. There's Klingons on the starboard bow, starboard bow.
You cannot change the script, Jim. Up to you, Jimmy.
It's worse than that, it's physics, Jim.
Bridge to engine room, 1 factor 9.
If I give it any more, she'll blow.